Hey guys, so United top of the league, back where we belong after such a long time. It was a pretty difficult game, hard fought to get there, but fantastic result in the end. A great 2-1 victory. The first goal for United, great header from Anthony Martial. Obviously Tyrone Mings messed up a little bit to get there, but fantastic header from Martial. And it's fantastic to see him scoring a header again. It's been a while. I think since Istanbul was the last time. But yeah, it's nice to see Martial back in the goals. And it's just nice to be back on top of the table and level with Liverpool as well. Makes it all that much sweeter. Great way to begin the new year. So it's fantastic. Now, in terms of the tactical the way the game went down tactically, for me, I thought it was a really hard fought contest. I wouldn't say either side dominated the game in terms of possession, dominated the game in terms of territory. Obviously, United created far more chances. I'd say United probably on the balance of play should have won because we had more chances. We could have won that maybe 3 or 4-1 in the end. But what I would say is the way United played, the way we exploited our chances, the way we played against a particular setup which we struggled with in the past was absolutely brilliant. Obviously, let me know down in the comments below if there's anything in particular you want me to talk about in this game, in this stream. But the main thing I'm going to focus on is what I thought was the main tactical point from the entire game. On both sides, the pressing was absolutely fantastic. Full credit has to go to Aston Villa because they're clearly very well coached. From a defensive point of view, out of possession, they're really compact. Whether they're pressing forward, whether they're sitting back, they're really compact, they defend really narrow, and it made it hard for United at times. And for me, what I would say is United have, in previous times, struggled with that, especially when teams are pressing. And Villa were aggressive in their press, especially when we were sort of building out from the back ourselves. And they did turn the ball over a few times in dangerous positions, which gave us some problems. And it was nice to see, for once, that rather than just playing straight into pressing traps with sort of sideways passing, the fullbacks being on the same sort of horizontal line as the centre backs. Obviously, what we've often done, I guess, cast your mind back to Chelsea, Southampton, and last season and season before. What we normally do against pressing teams is just square passes, and rather than being on different horizontal lines, we're on the same line. And the reason that's a problem is because then, from a defender's point of view, if you're pressing, all you've got to do is get in between those two there, and you've cut off that pass, and also it's really easy to go and press and win that ball back as well. You're doing two things at once then. Whereas, if Wan-Bissaka here is on a different horizontal line, what it means is that Eric Bailly's then got the option of the chip pass, but it also means that to go and intercept, go and cut that down, yes, he's got to go less far, then he's got a long way to run to go to Eric Bailly, but it also leaves that option, that ball into McTominay, very much open. So it makes it a lot harder if they're on different horizontal lines. So it's nice to see that United have learnt from previous games, learnt from previous difficulties against pressing teams. We've done better in terms of being in possession ourselves. In terms of out of possession, obviously, because that's the main point of pressing, you try and win the ball back in aggressive areas and areas where you can spring a quick transition. The main area United looked to target in this game was a double pivot here of Villa in terms of John McGinn and Douglas Luiz. And the way we looked to do it is when Villa were playing out the back especially, they would always sort of look for their fullbacks. Rather than, what a lot of teams do is they have lots of players very high, and obviously the centre-backs are split wide, and players start to drop back deeper to sort of receive the ball. So the fullbacks will drop in. And oftentimes teams have a sort of central midfield player dropping in to receive in the central area. So what will happen is the striker will go and press one of the centre-backs, the defensive midfielder drops in to receive, and then they've got a little bit of space. Sometimes they play it straight out to the fullbacks, other times they turn and play it forwards themselves. But what Villa were looking to do today was they didn't really drop their central midfielder players in to receive. Instead, rather than doing that, they would look to play straight out to their fullbacks and then use the fullbacks to play back into the midfield double pivot. Oluyomi says, hello man, how are you doing? Great to see you. Obviously, we're top of the league. Fantastic to be back again where we belong, really. But yeah, so Villa were looking to play from their fullbacks constantly into this double midfield pivot, and United were pressing really aggressively. We're making sure that we cut off the options forward for Villa. So McTominay, Fred, and the back four were squeezing up. Wan-Bissaka as well, trying to be aggressive. And so what we were doing is trying to force them into a sideways pass. And at that point then, normally Flanders was ahead of the ball. So it would be McTominay and Fred at that point, after they've cut off the options, can then go and try and get in there and intercept that sideways pass. Now, with sideways passes, when you're looking to intercept them, square passes are really, really dangerous to intercept because as soon as you intercept that, you're through that midfield line and those two players are out of the game straight away. But if you go past and that side pass doesn't get played, then you're out of the game. The player who's pressing the ball is suddenly out of the game. So it was really important that we were able to make sure that if we did gamble on that pass, we either win the ball back or we recover really fast if we don't win that ball back. And that was an area Villa are really good at, and especially John McGinn. John McGinn's biggest strength probably as a footballer is his ability to, as soon as he receives that ball, one touch and a long pass straight away. So that if he's getting pressed and the pressing team don't manage to win the ball in that area, he moves it into a completely different area of the pitch, and that can leave some gaps. It can make it really difficult to recover. And so it was important that we didn't let John McGinn have that opportunity too many times. Now, you can't prevent every ball in the game of football, and he did have a few chances to spread that ball, whether it was looking forward for Ollie Watkins up against Maguire and Bailly, whether it was spreading it wide to Traore or Grealish when he's popping up in pockets. McGinn did have a bit of influence, but largely United were able to shut that out, which is a massive testament to our pressing, which was brilliant. Now, the other area that United had the other area that pressing was key and a big thing in the game was down the flanks. Now, a lot of the time, so for the first goal for United, the ball was somewhere in the middle. It went forwards to Marcus Rashford. But what we looked to exploit in this game, as well as as well as our strategy of not passing sideways, having players on different horizontal lines, another way we look to cope with the pressing is not taking a long time on the ball. As soon as we got that ball into forward players, they flick it on into the space behind them. Because, I mean, a lot of people say focus on pressing being leaving gaps in behind the team as a whole and behind the defensive line. We'll come on to that in a minute. But what it also does is, on an individual level, it leaves space behind individual players. Now, both teams were guilty of this, and especially Villa. So, hi mate, so to PG Trim 91. Hi, how are you doing? Good to hear from you. So what both teams were doing was, when the fullbacks here were looking to press the winger as soon as they got the ball. So Matt Target in this case was targeting Rashford. Sorry about that, boys. Had to be done. And as he was really aggressive on Marcus Rashford. As soon as that ball came into Rashford, he was looking to flick it on straight away. And because I think it was El Ghazi in this position, sometimes Grealish, they weren't tracking back as quickly, and so Wan-Bissaka had a lot of room to get beyond, overlap and put the ball into the box. Exactly what we saw happening for the first goal for United. Now, that happened all game because both sides were really aggressive with our fullbacks. United having Wan-Bissaka pressing up on El Ghazi, Luke Shaw pressing up on Traore, and he made it a really, really nice run from Luke Shaw, actually, intercepting a ball from Matty Cash here down the line for Traore. He intercepted that, sprinted, bursted forward down the left, and nearly got in the second half. So fair play to Luke Shaw, something we accuse him of not doing very often, but he was really impressive in that respect today. But what was impressive was that from both teams, they were aggressive with the fullbacks, and they were not only defensively, but also going forward. So when the opportunity did come up, let's say Pogba gets marked by Cash here, or whoever pulls out to the left, whether it's Fernandes, who sometimes appeared on the left, he'd be able to flick that ball in behind into that space, and both teams were really intelligent in the way they used that space to get their fullbacks forward and get crosses into the box. And if there was an area that both teams were looking to create chances from, it was from those areas, because that's where the vast majority of the gaps were appearing. From the individual pressing. Notice in this case, it's not how the whole line moves up, it's just how that one individual player is being really aggressive. So that's maybe a different way to look at pressing to what people have been looking at before. Now, PG Trim says, great video, cheers, thank you, it's fantastic to see you guys on the stream. You like Paul Pogba's left mid? I think he was brilliant today, and David De Gea was amazing, yes, completely agree. Paul Pogba will come on to now, he was absolutely brilliant. So we've just talked about pressing on an individual level, but if we also look at it as on a team level, whilst I just move these players back into position, if there's anything you want me to discuss, do drop a comment in the stream chat. Obviously got a few going from Oluyumi and PG Trim at the moment, so please do let me know if you want any more things discussing. Now, so we've done pressing on an individual level. Paul Pogba here in the left mid position, he popped up all over the pitch today. But it was really nice and impressive to see, especially in the second half, when United weren't having so much influence, we weren't able to keep the ball quite as well. He was intelligent. He wasn't playing into the opposition's hands by playing square passes himself. He was making sure that whenever he got that ball, he would look for the run of either Marcus Rashford or Anthony Martial in behind that defence, straight away. Because that defence was squeezing up at Villa, as soon as Villa lost the ball, their counter-press was on point. They were really being aggressive and squeezing up, and the whole team were following. The midfield double pivot here, McGinn and Douglas Luiz were squeezing up, and the back four was squeezing up as well. So there was that space in behind. And so often United have played into pressing traps and not been able to be intelligent and use the space that's there. But today, on this occasion, Paul Pogba was absolutely fantastic. Every time he got that ball, with his left foot, with his right foot, he was pinging those passes in behind for Rashford or Martial. And in the end, none of them led to a goal, but they created some good chances. And even if it doesn't necessarily lead to a goal, let's say Marcus Rashford's coming here, the defender's going to track him. And what that means is then all of a sudden the playing area is extended. The area that the United midfielders in particular have to work in is suddenly basically 10, 20 yards bigger, because the offside line obviously is now here rather than being up here. So by bringing that offside line deeper to here, it means there's a lot of space. So these other Aston Villa defenders have got to track back quickly, and it gives a lot of space between the Villa defence and midfield for the likes of Martial, Fernandes, Pogba, and one of McTominay or Fred. So it was fantastic to see that we're making the runs and that someone had finally the intelligence to play those passes. So full credit to Paul Pogba. He was absolutely brilliant. He was so intelligent. The way he went about his game was fantastic. And it's nice to see that not just United have evolved, Pogba's being more intelligent himself as well. PG Trim says, by the way, we played a diamond 4-1-2-1-2 according to lineup on the pre-game show. To be fair, I personally saw it as more of a 4-2-3-1 with Fred and McTominay as a double pivot. But I think Rashford was out on the right, but you can see it in a lot of different ways. Obviously, a formation, it's a bit misleading because it used to be that a formation was what the team would look like in their defensive shape, but United go back to a 4-4-2 defensively, so obviously that doesn't apply. Formation's just any way of classifying it. We had four defenders, a double pivot, Fred and McTominay, and then in front of that, 4 attackers. Martial through the middle, Rashford on the right, and then Fernandes and Pogba. Basically, they effectively had 3 roles. So you could argue it's a 4-2-2 if you're taking it off FIFA formations or whatever. So there's a lot of different ways you can classify that. Now, Pogba, absolutely fantastic. Scott McTominay, I'm a massive fan of him, but he had a really, really poor game today. So I'm really impressed. Well, not impressed. Sounds patronising, but I'm proud that Ole decided to substitute him out for Nemanja Matic. To be fair to Matic, he somehow managed to play almost even worse than Scott McTominay. But it's nice to see that Ole wasn't afraid to sub out McTominay when he wasn't playing so well. So it was fair play to Ole on that one. Now, the other change Ole made, a lot of people on Twitter getting quite angry about it at the time, taking off Bruno Fernandes. Now, Fernandes, I tell you what, Bruno Fernandes is going to rattle a lot of people few weeks' time when he ends up in the team of the year. That's gonna really irritate some rival fans. But he had to come off today. Well, he didn't have to come off today, but Dan James had to be brought on because Matty Cash, towards the end of the game, was getting some joy down that flank. He was overlapping a bit, and the main reason was because Pogba was drifting infield and he wasn't going back tracking with him. So it was nice to see that Ole realised that, brought on Daniel James, knowing that he's got a high work rate. He's willing to work hard defensively. He'll sprint back, follow Matty Cash, and he's got that pace in transition as well, which is another weapon in his arsenal. So it was nice to see that Ole made an intelligent change there as well. Obviously nice to see Axel Tuanzebe get a couple of minutes in midfield. Maybe that could be a solution going forward. PG Trim says again, we do switch in game with free roaming players. Yeah, I think that is something we've got a lot of teams don't have. We've got players that can pop up all over the pitch in different areas and be really, really effective. So obviously we know Paul Pogba, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, they can go anywhere. Same with Anthony Martial, really. He can do whatever he wants. He's got the dribbling ability, he's got the close control. Maybe his passing needs to develop a little bit more, but he's fantastic at popping up whatever he wants on the pitch. So yeah, overall I think that the pressing was absolutely key, and it was interesting to see it as the game went on. On this flank especially, on the left flank for United, the right flank for Villa, the team that seemed to be sort of in the ascendancy, the team that seemed to have the dominance at any given moment was pretty much just whichever fullback out of Luke Shaw and Matty Cash was the one making more overlaps at that given time. So it was interesting to see how that battle developed and how that was sort of a similarity or resemblance to the way the game was going as a whole. So I enjoyed watching that, enjoyed watching the game develop as a tactical contest, and it was a fantastic game to watch. So thank you very much for watching the stream today. Been brilliant to do it. Fantastic that we're now back on top of the league. Now, just before we go, I'll read your comments. PG Trim says, when Bruno went off, we went back to a 4-2-3-1, and Pogba took Bruno's position in the central attacking role. Yep, that's exactly how I saw it as well. So yeah, glad we're agreed on that one. And as far as I'm concerned though, I'm delighted we're back on top of the table. It's fantastic. It's been a long time coming. I tell you what, when we win number 21, we better be allowed back into Old Trafford. And on that note, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you so much for this. Do drop a like on the video. Do leave me a comment if you've got anything else to say. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.